Hi, this is Shaun. This is a quick tutorial talking about Maya's interface. Now, Maya has a really great interface, and learning how to use it more efficiently is one quick way to move from a beginner to an intermediate user. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is a thing called Fitts Law. Now, if you go to the Wikipedia page, it's basically a law that predicts how efficiently you are able to use an interface or how efficient a process is. And there's a bunch of mathematical functions, but the long and short of it is that the smaller the target or the more number of steps in a process that you have to take, the less efficient you're going to be. So how can you be more efficient? Well, you can be more efficient in Maya by learning the marking menus, by learning hotkeys, and there's a lot of hidden menus as well. So I just want to go over and in the course of this, I'll quickly make these three objects. I'll show the interface off and we'll go over those points that I had up in the beginning of the video. So quickly, let's see the heads up display. I like having the heads up display, these two on. You can go under display, heads up display. The object details shows distance from camera, which is useful for doing focal length type operations. Also, you can see backface culling is on or off. Also, the poly count is really useful for if you are selecting vertices and maybe you've selected two vertices by accident. You can see up there that you've got more than one vertice. Also, what's useful under the shading, I like to have wireframe on shaded turned on and also X-ray active component. That also can clue you in on if you've got things selected in the front or the back of the object. All right, so in addition, you have already seen me using the marking menu. Once you know the marking menus really well, you don't even have to hold the keys down and see the options. So for example, if I wanted to create a cylinder and I know the marking menu, instead of holding down shift, right click and cylinder, I just shift, right click, swipe, and then I use the hotkey for snapping. So I snap to grid. And in order to do that, you need to have creative turned on, the interactive creation. Now I like that because it saves steps for how I want to create the object. If I want to make a cube, for example, then that way I can size the cube and build up, and it's already snapped to my grid. So for cube, for sphere, it's all set. Now, also, it's good to know there's some sub-object menus like snapping. You can see this is kind of floating off of the ground here. If you want to use snap to the pivot point, I'm holding down the D key and then I'm holding down the V key to snap to vertices. I'm going to snap that pivot point to the bottom of the object and then snap that to the grid. Now it's right on the grid. Nice. All right. Also, selections and converting selections. A lot of the time, I see students, a common one I see is painting selections or selecting and shift selecting multiple faces on an object, maybe the top of this cylinder. You can simply select things like a vertice and then control right click and convert that to faces, and you've got all of the connected faces selected. You could delete that. The other thing you could do is, I think that some people, if they wanted to build something like a silo, I've seen students do things like, well, okay, they've learned how to do that, and they can learn that growing a selection is an easy way to, so shift greater than grows that selection, and then you can at any point convert that to faces, delete that. Now, if you wanted to, you could think about moving that to the top of the object. However, you can actually, if you know about some of the sub-object menus on an object like a cylinder actually has a rounded cap option. So you could turn that on and just create your object that way. So then you just need to delete the bottom of it if you want. All right, how else could you do things like making this archway? Again, think using some of the primitives. So we've got a thing called a pipe. So you could create a pipe, come in there, you could select the, if you double click on a line and grow that selection, convert the selection, delete it. I always have snapping on my rotation. You can do that by going under the rotation menu, and if you don't have that turned on, I turn it on. Set the step snap to relative at 15 degrees. So that's really useful. So you can double click there, double click here, extrude, and hit W and pull that down. Then if you wanted to do something like this, I'm shift selecting those, and then we'll just extrude that up. And then I'm going to scale that to itself to flatten out the top. And then if I wanted to, just like I did in my example over there, I'm going to hit the G key. That's really useful. Repeat last operation. So I had extruded previously, so I didn't even have to use the marking menu. So there we go. I just rebuilt that archway. All right. So I've talked about selections, conversions. I do selections and conversions even using UVs a lot of the time. That's really useful. Additionally, I see if you're doing animation, you select an object and you are setting keys on it. So hit the, most people know the S key sets a keyframe. That sets a keyframe on all of the options, but you can hit the Shift W if you just want to like set animation on the translate. So it's Shift W, Shift E, and Shift R if you want to just set keys on those. Translate, rotate, scale. That's useful. Then you can move the object, Shift W again. Then if you want to see that in action, I see a lot of people scrubbing the timeline. Again, that's the fifth law that I was just talking about in the beginning of the video. So instead, you start using Alt V to start and stop your playhead, and then Alt Shift V to rewind. All right. Well, hopefully those tips and tricks will speed up your process and save your wrists. So thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.